it is rolling out is the fact that it intends to shut down all thermal plants. In fact, it's issued notices to all thermal plants in Delhi and asked them to shut down operations within the next 7 days. So can Delhi's power distributions cope with the shutdown of the thermal power plants, and what can Discoms do to help fight pollution in Delhi? Here's what Praveer Sinha, the Managing Director and CEO of Tata Power Delhi Distribution Company, had to say when I asked him whether we would be faced with supply disruptions in Delhi if indeed we saw thermal plants being closed down. But you have to remember that the Rajghat power plant, for instance, which is one of the thermal power plants that the government is talking about, has already been closed since May of 2015. If you look at some of the other power plants, let's talk about Dadri 1 and Dadri 2, and let's also talk about the Badarpur thermal power plant. All of these plants are running well under capacity, so they're not running at full capacity at this particular point in time. So I asked Praveer Sinha of the Tata Distribution Company if Delhi will be able to cope and whether power distribution companies will ensure 100% power supply. Here's what he had to say.
Well, what happens typically in winter, the consumption of power goes down drastically. Just to give you an idea, in summer we have a peak of about 6,000 megawatt, and winter it comes down to nearly 3,200 megawatt. So the requirement of power itself goes down quite low, and because of that reason, whatever plans are there to shut down some of the thermal power plants, such as Rajghat, which is not operating for quite some time, and also Badarpur, which is operating but at a very low capacity against its capacity of nearly 700 megawatt. It is operating around 150 megawatt. So those plants can be shut down during this period, especially when we are having huge issues about pollution. Also, these plants are little old plants. They are not very efficient plants, and they have very high cost also. And to that extent also, it would be beneficial for the consumers of Delhi that the cost of power.
So, Mr. Sinha, do you actually welcome the move of the Delhi government to order the shutdown of these plants?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we have been taking up with both the union government and also the state government that during the winter months, typically from October to March, the consumption comes down, and it would be in fitness of things that these plants are shut down during that period, and Delhi can meet its power requirement from the other sources. And also, if there is a shortage during any hour, then one can go and purchase that power on a day-ahead basis through the exchange. Also, there is a mechanism whereby through banking arrangement we get some power. So in all, I can tell you that we have enough power capacity in Delhi to meet the requirements of the consumers, and we'll ensure that 100% supply is ensured to them.
Okay, you're saying you will ensure that 100% supply continues even if these plants are shut down. But what are the alternatives that Discoms like you can now exercise or leverage to try and bring down pollution? You know, a lot of talk about renewables, rooftop solar, and so on and so forth. What can we realistically expect?
Well, we have already gone ahead and tied up nearly 240 megawatt of solar plants, and these are solar power which is coming from other places. In addition to that, we have a very ambitious plan to add nearly 400 megawatt of rooftop solar, primarily for industrial and commercial consumers in next 5 years. And we are encouraging all our industrial and commercial consumers to go for rooftop solar, and they are economically viable, especially with the net metering policy that the Regulatory Commission has come up. And we typically feel that the challenge in Delhi is how to meet the peak requirement. And peak comes during summer months when the sun is there. And solar power can play a very, very important role in meeting the peak requirement for a city like Delhi.
Very quickly, what would be the difference as far as the cost of power is concerned when we're talking about rooftop solar?
Rooftop solar typically is intermittent power. It is little expensive still because on a rooftop you typically get very small units which will come up, and that would cost about 8 to 9 rupees. But that is the tariff which is being charged to the consumers of industries and commercial consumers. So if we do a netting off, they are better in that scenario.